I think we're all psychic. I think we're all born with these faculties that we can recognize different patterns in ourselves and others. It's just interpreting that information consciously, maybe. Not all of us are aware of that information that's being gathered by our nervous system and our subconscious mind, so we're not conscious of that information. We're not using our intuition. What if you knew a way that you could use communication, at least good questions, and build more intuition and maybe even look psychic to your friends and family? Well, it's not a joke. This is the structure of intuition and how we can use communication and language to work on conflicts. In mediation, this is used. The same type of techniques, and we use it in neuro-linguistic programming. We teach it in our practitioner series. And if all of us were to use this, we find that we maybe aren't so different, okay? We have different ideas and different beliefs around different subjects, and it may look like we have a really big conflict with somebody else or even within ourselves. When we use this information and use certain questions, we can find the big picture and how it relates to the other big picture of the other person or the other part of us. And we can find the details and how to work out those similarities. So let's get to it. This is the structure of intuition, or we call the hierarchy of ideas in NLP. So the structure of intuition's definition, so to speak, would be the ability to chunk up, meaning chunk our language up into big vague terms. The ability to chunk up and find connections and relationships. And then to chunk back down and relate that to the current situation. There we go. Being able to see the big picture and then come down to the details and see how that relates. And if we have two people with conflicting ideas, so to speak, usually we can find a higher ground where they'll meet for some higher purpose of why they're even doing their thing. And then as we bring back down the agreement, we'll find where the conflict really is. And we'll just probably see what it's just different distinctions trying to accomplish the same thing. So it's really cool when you can use that internally for conflicts. You may have heard yourself say something like this. On one hand, I want to do this. On the other hand, I want to do this. Or you're literally in conflict with yourself and have some type of autoimmune issue or something like that. Well, you can address it with something like this. So the structure of intuition, we would chunk up to get the big picture. So the big picture. So being able to see that big abstract understanding. So it's going to be more abstract than details, of course. And down into the nitty gritty, we get more into of course, the details. The details, and that's going to be more specific. So more specific, detailed info. Sometimes we get stuck down here and everything seems to aggravate us, and anxiety and things like that take over, and that would be probably what we would call the structure of nitpicking. So it's okay to know the details, but if we get stuck down there, we're lacking the intention and the purpose of it all anyway, the bigger picture. And sometimes we do get stuck in the big picture. And we don't feel very grounded. And we can see the big thing, but we don't know how to get there, so to speak. And we get stuck there. And that can feel like anxiety sometimes and overwhelm. We call the structure of overwhelm. So overwhelm. We don't want to get stuck in either one of those. So we can use our own questions for ourselves. If we're stuck down here, we might want to ask, well, what's the purpose of this? What's the intention? Ideally, what's the intention? What's the purpose, or what's an example of this? That would take us higher with that question. What's the purpose of this? If we had, we're talking about cars, so to speak. If we're talking about cars, and we started at some middle plane here, what's another example of cars? Well, cars are an example of what? That's an example of, so we're going higher. What's the purpose of a car? Transportation. Oops. That's a long word. Transportation. So cars are an example of transportation. Okay, what's another example of transportation? See, we can come back down from there. Maybe planes could be one. Planes, trains, and automobiles. Maybe in boats too, stuff like that. So we're going sideways with the information at this point. Okay, we're not chunking up, we're not chunking down, we're going sideways. You see this a lot nowadays with this emotional politics and things like that, when people get, well, sort of stuck in their emotions. And right here, and we want to know the details of why they're stuck in it. But ultimately, what's the intention of why you're stuck in that phrase, constantly talking in a loop, so to speak? You'll hear people kind of talking in a loop and not going up or down. They've forgotten the intention. So you can ask them a question like that. What's the intention here? What's the purpose? And then that'll have them going up and realizing, oh yeah, I was upset over this thing. And that's the ultimate intention. Okay, so back to this. If we're at cars, these are examples of cars. What's an example of a car? What's the purpose of a car? The intention of a car? Transportation. Well, what's the purpose of transportation? Well, we're going to move, right? I'm here, I want to transport myself over there. So movement over to there. Movement. And then we go up even higher. Maybe what's the purpose of movement? Why would we want to move? Freedom. We could go to maybe even there. Freedom. Because I'm allowed to move. Freedom. A car. We're talking about a car. What's the purpose of a car? Transportation. What's the purpose of transportation? Movement. What's the purpose of movement? Freedom. What's the purpose of freedom? Why would we want to be free? We can keep going higher than that. Get up to big picture, abstract sounding words. And NLP, we would call it a nominalization, which is basically a movement that's been frozen. Like to be free, what is that? Not the cost of free, but freedom. Do what you want. But we've frozen that into, like, sounds like a noun almost. So it's frozen. So with those big picture sounding words are really big and abstract. So that's up, right? This is all going up, where our language is chunking up to the big picture. Okay, so this is chunking up our language. Now, if we want to go down, and chunk down our language from cars, we're talking about the subject of cars, how would we get detailed information around cars? What are you talking about? You just said cars. What about cars? What's the example of cars? Planes, trains? No, but we're still talking about just cars. Stay back on cars, center point. So what specifically about your car? Well, let's get some details about the car. Maybe the make and model. What type of car are you talking about? We could have different types of cars. Down here, there's BMW, there's Ford, there's even a Tesla, electrics. There's more and more, there's Honda. Okay, those are examples of that level of cars. What are you talking about? What about the car? A Tesla. I'm talking about a Tesla. Okay, now we're on to something. So what model of Tesla? You do this when you go buy your windshield wipers, don't you? You look in a little book, you go, where's my make and model and what type of windshield wiper do I buy? Tesla. We're talking about Tesla. What about the Tesla? What model? Oh, Model S. What year? 2017. What are you talking about? The tire. Oh, what about the tire? Oh, I've got a slow leak in my tire. Detailed information we chunked down from midpoint and found the details. We went up from the midpoint to chunk up and found that big abstract meaning of what's the purpose of that. So this is the structure of intuition. Again, we can use this in mediation. We can use this internally with personal conflicts, or we call parts and parts integration, where you actually will learn something about yourself on both hands and ideally integrate that stuff so you realize there is no conflict to begin with. Because normally when we go up high enough into this big abstract terms, no matter what party has the issue at what level, you'll normally find that at the highest level, everybody's in agreement. That's the beauty of knowing this. If everyone's in agreement, you'll realize that we just have different distinctions on the things that we're not quite agreeing on. But we're still, as one, we are one people, one world, and internally we're one person. We don't have to have conflict, guys. If we ask good questions, we can build our intuition and work towards what? Conflict resolution, world peace, respect, and love. Those are some high value words, aren't they? Well, let's work on that. So if you got any questions about any of that stuff, there's some links down below. We do some online coaching, personal coaching, one-on-one, breakthrough coaching, group coaching, and some courses too down there. If you have any questions about any of the details or the big picture of this video, leave me a link down below. Got any questions on any of this stuff, or you want to know more about it, maybe I'll do a video on it. Feel free to share it, and I'll see you next time.